Welcome to MSP Unplugged, mi gente. I am your host, Paco Lebron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you are a one-person shop or a boutique MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, my partner in crime, the one, the only, Mr. Rick Smith over at Renactus Technologies. Rick, how are you this fine morning?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. A little humor this morning, a little pre-show humor, you guys. But I'm doing great, Paco. Like I always say, any better than it be a sin.
I hear
How are
that.
you?
I hear that. I have to be honest with you all. I am dog tired this morning because I have just flown in from Miami from the Channel Futures Leadership Summit. Lots of great things happening over there. Appreciate the invitation for Channel Futures. I was able to speak on a few occasions, collaborate with a lot of MSPs there, new MSPs, not only that I have not met in the past, but also from my own culture and own commonwealth known as Puerto Rico. So it was a great time for everybody there, collaboration, the diversity, the inclusiveness, the highlighting of the women in the channel and everything in all between. It was very good. I mean, it was amazing. But I also got to hang out with this gentleman that we're going to bring on here shortly. He is the 2018 MSP Shark Tank winner by ConnectWise, formerly Continuum. He is the author of the series, The MSP Handbook. He's helping MSPs grow every day and helping the community as a whole because that is his pure driven mission to make a change and help everyone in the community as well. Who am I talking about? That is my very dear friend who I consider a brother from another mother, who is now the channel chief of SuperOps, Mr. Juan Fernandez. Juan, how are you today?
Good guys, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good. Welcome,
It-
man. Welcome.
Welcome,
It's
welcome, welcome.
an honor
So
to be here.
no, I appreciate you coming on. I had to cash in a couple favors to make sure that we had the first of right to try and get you on here. But no, man, we've talked over the last probably several months on just everything that you're going on right now, and like the best way to say it is like it's just I'm thrilled for what you got coming up and what's in store for everyone here. But for those that have not heard from Juan, you haven't seen him at TechCon or on our previous episodes, you're missing out. We'll make sure we have those in the show notes. But Juan, why don't you tell us just a brief little bit about yourself and what you do in this thing called the channel?
No, man, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. I don't know, the story's long, man. I think in terms of, obviously being an MSP in my past life, right? I think that was probably, one of my biggest things. But as of being an MSP, I recognized there was a lot of things lacking. I found that there's an opportunity for community, and I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to share. I felt like there was a lot of things that I wanted, in my MSP and ways to collaborate. And I just didn't feel like it was 100% there, man. So, I set out and was like, look, you hear all the time, be the change you want to see. And so I was like, look, I'm just going to do the exact thing that I wish I received, right? It was, share how I'm building my business and give back, advice and, go through a lot of the trials and tribulations and be transparent about, things that are, bothering me in ways I'm struggling and growing my business. And so it's really been an opportunity to like, grow in the channel and be part of it. Right. And, obviously I do a lot of stuff with CompTIA and others, but, my journey, I think obviously growing my MSP and then of course exiting it, those 6 years where I learned a lot, man. And in a lot of those things, I got to, do some amazing things on the way out of there, writing the MSP owner's handbook. A lot of people were always asking, how'd you grow it so fast? How are you always, at the top, in the top 10, fastest growing. And, there's some mechanics behind how you grow a managed services business. And there's some things, but it takes a lot. And it was stressful, man. Like you can't see all the gray hair that I got from that, bro. But I was like when I started it in 2015, I was in the best shape of my life, man. And then I got in
Just way
desk shape, if you will. Like I was like I'm in the worst shape. Like after that, like it was so much stressful and tiring, but it was a fun drive, man. And as I exited, like I said, coming out creating the MSP owner's handbook, it was and giving back to the community. Like you said earlier, it's all about, making a difference, man. And I think that, sharing that advice has really been some of the things that I've been really the most proud of, because I think I'm, empowering others, not in just, the businesses that I create, but, MSPs around me to be successful. And so it's just been a real honor, man. And I'm really grateful to be able to be called friend by a number of MSPs and be able to help so many of them. And because again, I'll give my content, my information, my contact information at the end. And I'm serious about helping. Like I really do. And I've always been that way. You know, if you've got a question or a problem, if I don't know you, call me, ask me. I'm happy to help. I've always been like that. So, but yeah, I am at SuperOps, man. I am the channel chief for SuperOps. And, you know, one of my big passions as I was, you know, building my MSP, one of the things that would bother me the most, man, was that I was conforming to a tool. Like I was like, you know, trying to build a unique business that was different and not necessarily conformist. And I wanted it to be different, right? We talked about delivering technology or business outcomes through the thoughtful use of technology, not true managed services, right? And I felt like I was always kind of contained. So when I exited that, I really looked in. I spent a lot of time on thinking about building a next generation managed services platform, to the point that I bought a domain and was like going to do it, right? I was going to bolt together a bunch of softwares and be able to help the managed services space. And I recognized something that I was like, there's already some really good contestants there in contenders. You know, I feel like, you know, some of those guys may catch on. Maybe I just invest in other companies and do some things. But as I, you know, over the last years that I've been helping, you know, that fire's never left me. And so when I had an opportunity to look at SuperOps again and you know, we see where they were at in their journey, and sat down with the leadership and was like, what are you really going to do this? Because I think I see you're going to do this. And they were like, we're going to do that. And I'm like, okay, so then I'm going to help you do that, because I've always wanted to do this. And so that little fire, you have the emoji though. It's like this little flame emoji.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when you see it, like that's the fire. When you see that little fire inside of yourself, you're like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to put this out. And that's exactly how I felt, man. And I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And so I cannot tell you how excited I am to be able to help the industry in a way, not only just give them advice, you know, and sitting down and talking about, but then to build the tools that are actually going to empower them to be successful. Dude, super pumped for this. So maybe the energy level is not coming off about it, but I'm telling you right now, I am excited, bro.
No, I can tell you, like, you know, it's funny, right? So to those, for the context of the fire, me and Juan at TechCon, I was on my laptop working on our presentation, or my presentation at the time. And he just happened to walk by. He was like, is that a fire emoji? And so I kind of explained to him the thing and all that. He's like, dude, he's like, that's really awesome. And so the way that I was explaining it, you know, it was one of those where we were talking about the Phoenix project and unplanned work and all that. So he's like, dude, that's it. Like you gotta key into that. And so I brought it back to the presentation I did, and Channel Futures needed a little bit oiling up, but it worked nonetheless. And so I was like, you know what? I'm getting shirts made of this damn thing. So Juan, you will be the first one to get that shirt once we get that set up.
Dude, I can't wait to get the fire emoji shirt, dude. Like, I love that. And here's the thing behind it, right? It's just to the point that, you know, what you were working on, and I saw it, and I was like, and what it says underneath it is classic. I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but when you find your passion, right? Like to just be able to see it, right? And you're like, even if it's just this little tiny fire emoji, even if it's just a little spark, man, that's what I told Paco. I was like, when you see that, when you feel that, it's that, man, there's no putting that little tiny thing out, right? So embrace it, take your passion, run with it, like, and just let it burn, right? And so, and that was what we were talking about. So when I saw it, I was like, that is your emoji, bro. And so I was like, run with that. And I can't wait to get the shirt. I swear I'll wear it as soon as I get it.
That's awesome. So, you know, you talked about how, you know, because I think a lot of the questions of when you made the announcement was why SuperOps, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that the company has really gained a lot of traction over the last several years. And everyone did hear about it in one way or another. And so, you know, by you being able to go over there, it definitely perked up a lot of ears. And so, you know, me and Rick, you know, we're in the middle of our fourth quarter living, which is our end of year planning and helping MSPs to understand, hey, these are the things you should take a look at. And
Sure.
one of those is taking assessment and really understanding where you're at, and kind of going from there. And so, and all tools are reviewed, right? And so, I think when we both were looking at the systems and trying to figure out what was what, being able to look into something like that, it just shows on what they have and where they're planning to go. And it's amazing on some of the things that, like, things you didn't realize you needed were in there, or some simple, easy to use, user intuitive items, where some may either have, or others are just the delivery of that information is just not the best. Like you said, conforming to a tool versus you utilizing the tool to run your business. Rick, when it came to um, just productivity and efficiencies for your MSP, why is really making sure that you don't conform to a tool so important, because to make sure that you can maintain your business efficiency moving forward?
Well, in my opinion, it comes down to, it's like Juan said, who's running the business now, right? Is the tool running the business, or are you running the business? If you're going to do things a certain way, the tools, what you use has to conform to your way. It's the same way when you hire people, or when you anything you do, it has to be part of your culture, of the way your business is run. So that always, and I think one of the mistakes we make is with a lot of quote unquote tools, we get to this point where it's a limitation somewhere, and we just accept it, right? We just accept the fact that it can't do this, so we won't do this. And you can't do that. You have to figure out a way to push through it, get it to conform to what you want, or find something that does. Otherwise, you will be stuck in that limited space, right? And you'll find yourself accepting more and more limitations on what you do.
Yeah, I mean, you made such a great point, and I learned this phrase while watching the show The Prophet from Marcus Lemonis, who's a Chicago native, and he says the phrase, "You cannot be emotional with your business." And so, being able to identify that is one thing, but really enacting on that is something else, right? Because as human beings, we hate change, right? And so we may have been doing something for so long, and that's MSPs, vendors, when you're doing something for so long, it takes businesses and new vendors coming into the space, like SuperOps a couple years ago. Some of the MSP tools are the tools being created by MSPs coming into the vendor channel, understanding the space, knowing what we need. And for an MSP and IT service business that has been doing business for so long, they have to be able to identify, I need this change. I mean, I was talking to a good friend of both you and mine, Juan, that I won't say who it is, but he had been a big shop at one of the big providers, and he's like, I think it got to the point where we were so emotional with that business and with that using of those tools that we need to start looking elsewhere, because how do I know that I'm stunting the growth of my business because, as you mentioned, conforming to a tool. But for those that don't know what SuperOps is, can you share a little bit about what SuperOps is? What does that platform do? And how it's helping not only MSPs, but definitely fast emerging MSPs taking on the next generation of the MSP model?
Yeah, as far as SuperOps go, it's it's an RMM, it's a next generation RMM and PSA integrated tool, right? So instead of having an RMM or a PSA that you have to go and buy one of each and then go and bolt it together based on integrations, it's been built from the ground up together. So a lot of the opportunities that come from that, you don't really even know what they could be until you take a look at it, because like there's synergetic components between each of the things, right? Because they're not two different separate things. Like there's no integration talking back. It is the same thing. So systems, when I think about this, when I was an MSP, one of the challenges is that there's a delay. And if something broke, like I was always standing in the middle of that. Right. And it's like, how am I in the middle of this? Like right now, like I didn't want this. I didn't build this integration. I wasn't interested in that. Like, I don't know why your databases are having, like, you made a change and somebody didn't talk. Like, well, why is that my problem? I have
Right.
pissed off customers now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like when you have a platform that's fully synergetic in its components, like you take the middleman out of the equation, and now I have an opportunity to be more productive. I can focus more on my customer service. I can focus more on the things that I need to be doing. And then of course, the enhancements within the platform. I think they're, when I took a look at, and I've looked at all the platforms out there, and I don't want to bash anybody because they're all great in their own right. But in terms of, the usability, right, and the communication internally, like there's some really integrated aspects of communicating with your customers internally, and being able to invoice your customers internally, and be able to, bill your customers internally. Like all those things are time. And when we think about the time to revenue, right, one of the challenges in managed services is we don't always quantify it appropriately, and we don't always calculate it for lost time, right? But
Yeah.
that is
Right.
money flying out the window, right? So when you think about all the components that this brings together, like you can get to revenue faster and profitability faster because of the tool working the way it should. Right. Like I don't need to have somebody export, information and go out and put it into QuickBooks and then send it off and bill my customer. Like you can bill from the platform, right? It's already built in,
Right.
it's already integrated into QuickBooks. So I know that those seem like little tiny drips, but those little tiny, it's like a death of 1,000 cuts, right? And at the end of the year, like we're sitting here now, we're talking about in Q4, and you're like, man, why am I not productive? And I go back and I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, these tickets took this much. Like you don't have visibility into all the cuts because there's no system that's allowing you to see it. But once you have a synergetic system, then all of a sudden you're like, why am I profitable now? I'm doing a similar thing. No, because the platform is designed to help you be more productive and more profitable. And that's why when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is already good. I can take this and make this fantastic, right? Because I see where it's already at. And like it only has up to go, right? So like we can start giving new visibility and new value and in offering new things. But from a standard basic remote monitoring and management perspective, it's top class, and so even in as big as we got ours, I mean, we were at, 20 million at the top, right? We never functioned cleanly, like just full transparency, right? Like there was always fractures in our process because we were using disjointed tools. And the more vendors that I added, the more fractures that I added. And that's loss of time, right? And I would look at all of that. And so when I see it built like this in this way, and I, talking with, potential companies to integrate with, and we talk about how tightly the integrations we want to see, all of that just adds back to the MSP's pocket and our partners' profitability. And again, back to, usability. So that's why I'm really excited about it. So this is really what it is. And so for those that are interested in taking a look at it, definitely, obviously, come take a look, because you don't know what you don't know until you look. And it's really interesting. You can get siloed in your own day to day, and you're just like, God, this is just the way it is. And it's like, no.
Yeah. It's like you said about I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. Like you mentioned it earlier, right? Like it's good to do a review. And every year we used to do the same review. We used to call it the bake off, right? So like we would always spend a year with the tool and then do a review of it and make sure that it was still quantifiable and that everything still matched up to it. We call it the vendor due diligence checklist. And everything we were doing every year, we would review our vendors and make sure that they did the same thing. And I will tell you, we did ultimately move to a different core, right? I mean, but it took a couple years, but we did it because we were like, okay, this isn't going to work for us long term. And again, it was one of those, spend $1 billion and build everything you want into it. And it's like, God, it was so expensive to build. So that being the flip side of the coin, that's why I'm at SuperOps, because they're building it. They're spending the money to develop it. And we're listening to great MSPs like yourselves and others that want to have a contributing factor. And we're just going to try to build the future, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I want to dive back with Rick, because you said something earlier. And as we unpack what you just mentioned is, when you're utilizing specific tools, your hope is that they're going to help assist you to, one, make you look better, but also to assist and check off the boxes and do what you have told your end user to do. And sometimes you get caught in the middle. So Rick, I want you to tell your story that you have mentioned, because you had a vendor recently that, quite frankly, screwed you. and you had all I believe it was a bunch of VMs or a backup that was going on. You know, they only had it in one co-location or something of
Mm-hmm.
that nature, and then you were stuck with the bag because of their lack of preparation or planning. Can you share a little bit about that? Because when I heard, you know, really pissed off clients being stuck in the middle of all that, it brought me to that scenario right away of, you know, now we have to do this due diligence, because sometimes what the vendors are highlighting to us in marketing may not be what is up to snuff.
Right.
But I'll let you.
And I'll just say it this way, that I won't mention the vendor themselves, but that 99.9% uptime thing you always seem to be that 0.01% part. It always seems to affect you. You know what I mean?
We've all been that 0.01% part, man. That's
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was frustrating. You know, it was frustrating for me because things happen, right? And I'll be the first to admit, technology breaks sometimes, things go wrong. I'll be the first to admit that, and I can accept that, right?
Absolutely.
But it is when it breaks, and again, how you react to it is what's important to me. When something goes wrong, and you tell me, and I say, hey, and I'm getting I can't explain to my customer, you know, they have a fire in the building, the colo, they don't have any place else. They don't have it in multiple data centers, so they can't switch you over. And, you know, I can't explain all that to him because he doesn't care. He cares that he can't, you know, in this case, it was accountants. They got to do payroll for their customers. That's what he cares about. You sold me a product. You told me it would work. I trusted you. It's not working. I can't service my customers, right? That's their answer to me. And I'm stuck because they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. And, you know, my issue was, again, things happen. I will always accept that, believe that, and understand it. But how you deal with it is what's most important. Just to tell me, oh, I don't know when it's going to be back, and, you know, we'll let you know. It's not a help for me. Well, why don't you have, you know, then you start questioning. But to make a long story short, it was a nightmare for 2 days. 2 days. Because of a issue. And, you know, it was a fire in the building, then it was the fire marshal shut down the power, then it was they can't let them run the backup generator, then it was they got to wait for an inspection. So I'm like, come on, really? You know, so it was really a headache. But the real moral of the story is, again, when you don't realize, you know, it goes back to what you said, Juan, about the 1,000 cuts, right? When you don't realize you're being cut, you accept it, right? And then now I always make the argument, people have heard me say this a lot of times. I do business with people I know, like, and trust. But a lot of that trust comes into, you know, you build that trust with me by keeping your word, by going out of your way when things go wrong to give me assistance, right? Or to help me, or to at least show that you're concerned, that it matters to you that I'm screwed right now. You know what I mean? And because everybody has somebody to service, right? This client had a responsibility to service me. I had a responsibility to service my clients. My clients had a responsibility to service their clients. Their people couldn't get paid. You know what I mean? And so it rolls back to, again, to just being responsible, being responsive. And I am not going to, and I'll leave this here, Juan, because this is your show, but I'm going to say this. I am not going to bash where we were, right? Or where I was at on the previous RMM, because I was happy. But again, you learn as I learned the mistake. I learned that I was making the mistake that we talked about in the beginning. You accept limitations, and, you know, you allow those then to hamper your progress. And when you open a new door and the sun shines, you're like, you know, this actually could be fixed. They actually, honestly, I was like, they actually could do this, or it actually could be done a certain way. I like that. And then again, you know, I do like the fact that when I have a question, or I have something to say, somebody responds to me.
Yeah.
Like, and quickly. So, you know, those are things that are important. So I'll just leave it there.
No.
Yeah, no, I love the ah moment. Yeah, if I think about an ah moment, and I this next year I'm gonna have similar to the comment you made earlier, Paco. One of the things I want to talk about this next year is profit, right? And the mechanics of managed services and making money. And I think it's really important for us to take a look at, because none of us got into business to just turn wrenches all the time, right? Like, and I love the fact that we love to service customers. I love nothing more than, the pat on the back, saying, "Hey, good job." I get it, right? We're service workers. We love to do what we do. We love to service customers. We love to hear good things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we want to make money with it, right? And I got really tired of getting beat up on the first one in my first IT company. And so the second one, I was like, not going to do that. And I focused on profit, and I focused on quality customer service and delivery. And one of the things that I'm really excited about here with SuperOps is that I get a chance to not only do that here and help partners see where their gaps are. And so some of the stuff that's coming out in the near term future, some of the ways we'll be leveraging AI is to give you those insights into the things that are cutting you, that are costing you money, that are causing you not to be able to make money in your business. Instead of making you have to go look for it, we're going to go and hunt for it, right? And show you and give you reports and do all those things. And so I can't share any secrets, but I promise you, like, it will be one of those things where you'll get a new visibility into not just the management and monitoring and aspects of the company and what needs to be fixed, but how am I making money? Like, am I actually going to make money with this customer or not? Like, am I going to make, what are the things that are doing? What do I need to be doing to be making money in my business? So I am pumped about that, because I think that's what we've needed for a long time, right? Other than just being issued a tool and say, I hope you do well with it. Like, can you show me how I'm going to make money with it? Because I'd really like to know, right? Like, I'm not a good business owner in terms of like a financial guru, right? And so we'll end up having to hire that out. But if the tool gave you that information back, I think it'd be more meaningful. And so we have the technology, right? We have the ability to do it. Why not just do it? And that's what we're going to do. So can't wait for the next iterations, man. You guys you'll be all pumped up.
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
I think that, hanging out with you at Channel Futures and seeing you do your thing at the booth and talking to all the coming in partners, current partners,
Yep.
The highlighting of disjointed tools and really understanding how, like you said, things breaking because they've been put together, either the onus on the MSP or somehow was commingled to put together to work in some way, shape, or form, meaning, you're using two different solutions to complete your your platform. Businesses that only offer a PSA and businesses only offering an RMM and things of that nature. And I'm a big proponent of unified platforms. And so, being able to do that allows for this phrase that I learned from Chris Tim way back when, was the burden rate, and how
Yep.
much that will destroy or make your business, like you just mentioned, on those little cuts. And a lot of people just think time is time. And so an example that we had for our side was, we had a big client, one of our biggest clients that we've onboarded, and my lead tech wanted to told our administration team to schedule a remote session with each individual one. I said, what, why are we doing that? Oh, well, because we have to onboard the system. I said, did it not fathom to you on the onboarding email that it has the link for them to download and onboard it? And if they have problems, we can adjust to that. So why are we spending close to almost 3-4 days of your time to do this? And now you've taken yourself away from our other clients, and now you've overburdened where we're
Yeah.
at. And I didn't know how to explain that before, until I was able to understand what burden rate is, what is, things of that nature. So, I always talk about this book, the PSA Impact. I think it was a very great book. Chris Tim does really great on talking. He is an Autotask guy, and I think he's doing some work with other platforms, but the book specifically is an overall how you should be handling your PSA as far as overall information. So great starting point. And then, there's a lot of great information coming out from an educational piece from SuperOps as well.
Sure.
We just had the virtual summit. We were me and Rick were um grateful
At
to
the
have the
top 10.
invitation to kind of speak our pieces for some of those well-known MSP questions. But you had a lot of heavy hitters there as well. I think you had
Yeah.
Paul Green, you had
Yep.
some of the well-known
And
industry experts,
yeah.
you know, and that really were educating. And I think this was like because I believe you had a virtual summit previously as
It,
well, and then you had your in-person one in New York not too long ago as well, really diving into education. And I know this is you're a big proponent on education,
yeah.
and
Huge.
and I'm not only just the community, but also why things should be done a certain way, or at least think about why you're doing it this way.
Sure.
Can you tell a little bit more about, like, obviously we've talked a little bit about your thoughts of the industry, but
Sure.
where you're looking to really help the MSP understand. We've talked about obviously
Yeah.
profitability, how we need to focus in on that. And so how have you taken your ideologies and started to apply those into your role over at SuperOps?
And I'll just tell you, right off the bat, coming in here, I do believe that, we're going to do it again, right? We're going to do it in person. So we got some, for those MSPs that are interested, will, hit me up on LinkedIn, but we're going to be doing some education opportunities where we're bringing in MSPs into Dallas and into Orlando here in December. And we're going to be doing full day education sessions, which are just purely about how to build your business. And I mean, no sales pitch. Like, I don't know for those that don't know me, like that's not my thing, right? Like I'm all about education. I think if you understand if you're empowered to make a decision, you'll make the one that's the best for you. And if that happens to be one that's in line with SuperOps, then great. But if not, then we move the industry forward by that moment. And so we're going to be bringing in some really great folks and really wonderful educators to be able to sit down and do workshops on how to build your MSP business, like literally hands-on, like here are the things, like let's go through them. Let's talk about profitability. Let's go through and talk about your customer journey. Let's go through and talk about customer success. Like, what are the ways that you should be doing this and ways that you can be implementing and going back with some plans? And so from an education perspective, it won't stop. Like, I think that there's a lot of opportunity and room in the industry. And like you said, we're at the MSP Summit. We were talking about what your customers aren't telling you. We had another session on the AI and MSPs for the future. Like, how can we bring that in and implement it into our businesses? And it wasn't about SuperOps, right? It's about
Right.
moving your business forward. Like, there's a lot of technology. And if you decide that that's something that will help you and empower you, by all means, but we're here to help the community move forward. And so I've had so many wonderful folks, our friends over at SharTech, Taylor Business Group, the MSP Community Minds, like everyone getting behind the initiative, our friends over at Empath that have said, hey, look, I want to be part of this education component and helping move the industry forward as a group. And so, there's just such amazing outpour of love and care for those that are actually really wanting to help MSPs move forward. And I'm not saying that others don't. I'm just saying that there's just been a lot of support for this initiative to actually really start to empower others to be successful and really teaching hands-on how to do it. And, hey, here are the worksheets and here are the handouts that have nothing to do with anything we're selling, right? It's just, these are the things that you need to be working on in your business to be able to, at some point, maybe ingest the tool that may be one of those things that might empower your business to be more successful or profitable. So for me, education won't stop. Like it's going to be a constant thing. Even in the platform, I've made some suggestions around the way we can educate MSPs at certain points. And I've suggested a number of things. So I have a whole bunch of education I think that we could be building even into the platform, but also it will not stop with the community. We're going to continue to pour it out. I got IT Nation coming up, so we'll be out there at the block party supporting there. I got a bunch of stuff going on in Calgary at the end of the month where I'm actually going to be out working with a bunch of MSPs up in Canada for the same way. Like, there's just all these things, whether we be in an event or we be online or we be, in some way, we're going to be bringing education value all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly like you said. I think now we've gotten an influx of people in the community that are
Mm.
stepping up to care and are trying to dedicate their resources to the community, and it's great. Because I think that when we started this back 8, 9 years ago, there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot for the next generation of MSPs, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of us having this platform and being able to speak to those who are just trying to figure it out, whether they are
Mm.
a solo business owner, a boutique MSP. What's the phrase you like to use, Rick?
Oh, a nimble MSP.
A nimble MSP, and that are led by great people, like
Yeah.
someone that just may not have heard of a community. They didn't know the term, the channel, whether they're minority owned, women owned, being able to figure out, hey, how do we collaborate? I can actually collaborate with a neighboring MSP. They may not be competitors because we're looking at different things and opening the eyes. I remember coming into that and just seeing a whole new world versus what I was told from before. And, once you get involved, it's just a great way of seeing that. And then you being able to spearhead all that and really just take on that as a whole. You just, when we were at Channel Futures, we were able to have the ability to collaborate with other super ops partners on
Yeah.
a private yacht, and we were being
Yeah.
able
There
to
was that.
we were able to collaborate and really discuss with everyone and have great conversations. And so you're really doing a lot of things that, again, as I mentioned, out of the box, and really just bringing the ability of a breath of fresh air. I remember talking to the
Yeah.
folks over at Super Ops and the team, and they were saying that, not only has your presence inside of the business really allowed for that breath of fresh air and motivation and just revigor of their renewed mission, but also that they were blown away of what externally of their
Yeah.
viewpoints have come to them, meaning that you being able to, from all our friends, our partners, those that know us,
Mhm.
have said, hey, Juan coming over, that's amazing, etc. And so I
It's
know
an
they have
honor.
much love for you going over there when I've talked to them. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of great things on that. The last part I want to talk about, because we've talked about how super ops is saving time. We've
Mhm.
talked about how you're improving services and really focusing on some of
Yeah.
these items as a business, is to save money. And I know that super ops, your pricing plans are actually a little bit different than some other unified platforms as well. Can you talk a little bit about how you've decided to break that up, or kind of the ideology of what super ops is trying to do in its
Yeah.
mission to help other MSPs?
I think, obviously we recognize that, the platform and the pricing, and again, I hate to say this, man, but, one of the things I've always said, and again, this is why we align so well, is like, even in my own personal life and when I was selling to consumers and SMBs as an MSP, I said, I build products and services that everyone can afford, and I add so much value they can't afford not to. Right.
Mm.
That was my MSP talk track, man. Like I told that to every customer, and I was like, look, you're going to be able to afford this. And you know what? We're going to make sure that you love every minute of it. And that was what I used to say back when I was talking to, as an MSP to my customers. And
Mm.
now I get to say that to who, to the MSPs, right? Like, that's the beauty around the pricing structure now. Like they were already there. They understand the buying. They understand the value. They understand the things that MSPs are looking for, and they're building that into the tool. So as far as pricing goes, one of the things is it's priced per technician, and then it's priced for seats, right? So your initial technicians, depending on how many you have, you can buy your technicians and you get 150 seats, right, to service your customers with. But then if you need additional, then you can just keep buying blocks of 150 seats as you go up the scale. And the beauty of it is like, we're adding new products. Like we just launched network monitoring, and like there's so many new features that we're adding, and a lot of the value that it's going into, we're like listening to see what everyone's interested in paying for those things and the value that we're bringing. So a lot of our partners that are testing out that product now, we're being offered to our customers, for the prices that they can afford, right? We want to make sure that the value is outpacing the expense to them so that they can go back to their customers and make money. And that's where I think, with that, this whole conversation and a lot of the pieces we've talked about is that time to revenue. but then there's also time to profitability, right? And we can get into a whole. I promise I'll dive into it in the profit series this next year when I start talking about how the mechanics of making money, but the pricing, I think it will stay the same, right? I love the fact that we're still no contract. If you want to do monthly or you want to do annual, again, all the variables are there for people that, wherever you're starting, man. Like, I get it. Like, we all started somewhere. We can't all afford to pay for a year in advance. We can't all afford to pay. And so, large sums of money up front to get, discounts. So we'll just give it to the ones, when you start off, like, that's the best way to help. And so I think a lot of the pricing and the way they have it structured now, it will continue that way moving forward. And, valuable partners that are out in the ecosystem. And again, friends like you guys that are hopefully part of that conversation at some point will help us make those decisions, because we are listening and we are wanting to serve the community in the right way. And, that's the thing that shaped our success to this point, including mine in my career. So we're going to continue to listen and give those things that are needed back. So if anyone's got pricing concerns or wants to talk about things or want to learn more, I'd be happy to share. But the pricing is, I think it's pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. When I talked to a colleague of mine and mentioned to him, he was telling me what he was doing, what he's not doing, and I was like, dude, why don't you just look at this? And he's like, wait, I can just buy that? And I was like, yeah, just get that part and then just get that piece and do what you got to do. And because he's a smaller MSP, and he's like, dude, like, not only did you just save me time, but I just ran through the platform and this thing is this thing is dope. And so his words, not mine. And so, I think it allowed for just that, again, opening your mind to change,
Sure.
seeing what's out there, understanding that, there are platforms trying to do the right thing. And there are vendors and there are partners that are trying to not only do things for a good time, but for a long time. And I think that's been missing for a lot of us who, see those that are building and, hopefully are just riding that wave, where there are those that are committed, have dug their heels in and trying to get into that as well. So,
I like what you're saying there. I got one thing to say to that. I will add this. I think what you said was amazing, and I appreciate that. I think the grow with us, not grow into us, is really where we're at, right? Like, we'll help you. Even if you just need one piece, you need the the PSA, and you don't need the RMM, you could get that, right? Like, if you're like, hey, I'm kind of happy where we're at. We have a lot of integrations with other platforms if you got long-term commitments that you're stuck on that you can't get out of. But happy to have a chat with anybody that might be interested. But yeah, man, it's all about growth, bro.
Yeah. No, perfect. Rick, anything you want to go ahead?
No, I was just saying, I appreciate the educational piece of this that you're talking about, Juan. So I give props to you about bringing that to the community, and props to SuperOps for supporting you and bringing that to the community, because
I appreciate it.
I think it goes back to what was said in the beginning. You don't know what you don't know, first and foremost, right? And secondly, that the answer all the time to I need to make more money is go sell more. Just go sell, go sell, go sell.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily know, two things, maybe how to sell, or two, there are things internally you could be looking at that can increase your profitability as well, that you are not necessarily aware of. So I appreciate the fact that you guys and a lot of people in the industry are taking the time to to put that out. You guys are going to work on doing that. I think, and I'll say this as something that gives me the most gratitude. Since I've been doing this show, I get emails and phone calls, and I talk to people at TechCon or LinkedIn, and they'll say, "Hey, thanks. I heard your show. I like it. I'm glad you guys did this. So you talked about that. You taught me this." And I'm like, I don't know crap. Everything I know, I learned from somebody else. But seriously, it's funny. You talk to people, and I'm here now giving advice on certain things, and Paco and I, we talk about how we do things, and we bring on experts like you, Juan, to help us reinforce and actually to help teach, what we don't know as well, that we can help. But it's one of the greatest things to, feelings when someone says thank you and you learn you help them along the way, right? And I say thank you to you guys, because you're putting forth this effort to do that, to help educate MSPs, and not it's not a selfish endeavor. It's you know, it's a selfless endeavor. It's a teaching thing. So I personally appreciate that because it helps me grow, and it also can help me help someone else.
Well, I think you said it right, man. You know, even in the book, the MSP Owner's Handbook, like I talk about live, learn, give, right? And it's all about like hashtag share forward, man. Like, you know, again, when we started off talking, like I felt like there was something we needed to change. And how can we change it, right? We can share more. We can, you know, talk more. We can, you know, be more vulnerable and actually really get out there and be like, hey, look, here's all the mistakes I made. Like, I'm not perfect, right? I've been the first and foremost, like on almost every show, to talk about all my failures, right? And that's the reason, that's the thing that's got me to where I'm at. But if I don't tell you how I got here, you're just gonna be like, oh, well, he just, you know, somehow fell out of the sky one day and it landed on some success map. And that's not true. Like, it's all process of failure, you know? And so I love where you're going. And I love how you're, you know, we don't know, man. It's like, hey, can I ask you a question? And it's like, I'm like an open book. And so any of you can ask me anything. I'm going to give you a long story of here's all the dark roads not to go down. Here are all the things that are going to get you caught up. Like, you can try it. Like, I'll give you this, like, but here's probably like 6 different outcomes of that exact scenario. Right. And I think that is really what's more impactful. And I'm really hoping to build those experiences. Paco mentioned we did a little yacht thing for some prospects, customers, and influencers just at the event. And I loved the synergetic components of the conversations that were being had. Like, it's just, we're able to just stop for a minute and be like, all right, here's what's really important to me right now. Like, can somebody help me with this? You know, and I think we're going to continue to create more experiences where we can bring the community together to just have those moments of true, honest, transparent conversation and education around here's what's really serious about building your business. And let's just have fun together, you know, and that, I think that to me means more to me than anything, because I wish that I would have had that instead of, you know, feeling like I walked into a room and everyone's like, why is this dude talking so much? Like, I'm not going to tell him my pricing. I'm not going to tell him what I'm doing. Like, I'm like, all right, well, fine, then I'm just going to tell everyone what I'm doing. And hopefully somebody will consider sharing. Right. So
Yeah.
Somebody will catch on.
and this is, you'll see Super Ops this year. You know, we're going to get into the community. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep bringing voices like your guys's, and we're super pumped to be part of the show this next year. Like, I'm so happy to be able to be part of, you know, what you guys have created and a number of other outputs, right, in the community where we can actually engage and do that. Just kind of start rallying the community together. I think that's, you know, I think it's important for us to look at it from that component, because we can all learn faster if we all just share a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. I think, you know, 2 things. One, a phrase that Matt Lee used to say all the time is, you know, there are 3 components of what you don't know. It's you don't know, and you know it's over there, and you'll learn what the situation is. You don't know what you should know, and you know, and you're not doing it, and you just forgot. And then, and Matt will probably correct me on that. And then there's the area of what you don't know, but you don't know about the other thing around in that area. And that's where we get tripped up on is the stuff that we know where we can go to get the research. But then there are items that we just have no fathomly idea of the other side of that coin until it shows itself. Right.
Sure.
And so he says that's what excites him and what he tries to discover on a day-to-day basis. So that's one. And then 2 is what you had taught me, you know, because there have been times where people have said, hey man, we want to get your opinion, you're a thought leader. I'm like, yes, I'm a thought leader. But what it was is that, you know, the lesson you taught me was whenever you're talking to someone, ensure that it's your own. It's thought leadership, not regurgitation. And so that had really stuck with me, because it's now I'm really thinking about how I'm saying and delivering things. Is this my own truth, or am I just saying something I heard that sounds good, right? And so that has leveraged me and elevated me on how I talk to people, because I was in that frame where I would regurgitate, oh yeah, this is whatever. Like but I didn't truly live it until I actually did it, and then people see through that, and that's how you get through with that authentic self. But you know,
you'll find that if you use that in your life, people ask me all the time, like, have you read this book? And I'm like, no, because I want to learn how to do it myself, right? And then the more I learn how to do it myself, the more that I am more authentic in my explanation, and I'm comfortable with explaining all the things that I learned about it. Same with like vendor due diligence, like I know everything about this vendor segment because I went and researched all of it and I looked at them all and I made this decision and this is why we use it. That's a business use case for your consumer, because they're going to come back and be like, well, why did you guys pick this? And you're like, I don't know. It was the cheapest one, right? That's not a good conversation to have. Like, here's all the research that we did to get to this point to make the right decision to help you move your business forward. And we can stake our name on it because we feel confident that we did enough research to make that decision. It's the same thing when I think about thought leadership. Like, for me, I have to have experienced it. I have to have built it. Like, I have to know and I have to have gone through it all to be able to say it, because then I can authentically express it. So I love that you picked that up, man. There's a big difference between leadership and regurgitation. And I don't say it openly, but it's just definitely something that's built into me. And I'm glad that you're internalizing that, because it helps you speak more confidently too, because you've been through it.
100%.
So,
yep. You when you are in your own skin at that point, it just allows you to dive into that realm as well. So, but Juan, we're past obviously the time, and I appreciate you
way
giving us
past.
this giving you this extra time that we have. I know you have things to do. Super excited to see what you're doing at the helm of for all the community over at SuperOps, the U.S. presence that you will be building and expanding on as well. It's going to be a great time for partners. I'm excited to be on there, as not only a fan of you, a fan of the product, but as obviously you're one of my dear friends, I'm happy to be on this bus with you as well, openly, that I will hear say on the show on where SuperOps is going to go. So with that, other than, we'll make sure we have all the SuperOps info in the show notes. Is there any other details, any other information you wanted to share for anyone that might want to reach out to you or know more about what SuperOps is up to?
We have a couple meetups coming up that we're going to be doing for MSPs that are trying to learn how to build their business. So if you're interested, we got one coming up in Dallas in December, and we also have one coming up in Orlando in December. So if you're interested, ping me on LinkedIn. You want to learn how to build your business, you're looking for some educational aspects. We're taking care of flights and hotels for those that are interested. And one of the really special things that's coming is we're launching our SuperOps community for those that are interested in sharing some more. Obviously, we're going to be embracing the community of the show here into our community and making sure we can unify those conversations and being able to share. So if you guys are interested in learning more, come over, just ping me, hit me up on LinkedIn. Definitely love to connect. But thank you guys for all the love that you guys continue to show me. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be in the community and be just bring us all together, man. So hashtag difference makers, man. Let's do this.
Difference makers. Rick, any lasting words before we round out the show here?
Well, no, I again, Juan, I just want to reiterate my thanks for you taking the time today, talking to us. And I do want to say this too, I appreciate what you're doing for the community. I've seen you, sat in on other than talking to you personally and, having you on the show a couple of times, I've seen some of your work firsthand. And, I think you do a great job, and I think you're a great asset to the community. And I appreciate that. And I honestly expect you to make SuperOps, to move it where it should be, I guess. I'll just leave it that way. But I have nothing but positive belief that SuperOps is going to go where it needs to go with you at the helm there. So
appreciate you guys.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you. And thanks to the community for all your love too. You guys, there was a huge outpouring during my move over. And I know that there's a lot of pressure to, do something special here. And so I can't do that without all of you. So help me help you, and come over and join us on this journey, man. I'd love to try to move things forward here.
Awesome. Well, again, really appreciate you taking out the time and talking with us today. And then thank you to all of you tuning in. You can tune in to episodes like these every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you are notified whenever a new episode is available. If you're more an audio guy, if you prefer to listen to it on the go, we are on your favorite podcatcher app. We are on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, to name a few. You know, if you love what you're hearing, if you can please leave a review, that'll help us get found by other like-minded business owners like yourself. Again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.